This video is sponsored by Deep Cut Studios. For a wide range of fantastic gaming resources such as battle mats, dice trays and pre-painted bases, check out the description below.
Jacob Lynch was always a gambler. It's one of the reasons he decided to take a chance and cross the breach to Malifaux. Well, that and its lack of gambling laws. And, I got to admit, when it came to gambling, he was damn good at it, even winning the Honeypot casino in a high-stakes poker game. Unfortunately, although he was a damn good gambler, he was a terrible businessman, and one poor decision after another left him on the edge of bankruptcy. He got so desperate, he even decided to take a loan from the 10 Thunders. A bad decision even in the best of times. Just when it looked like he would finally drown in his debt, two mysterious individuals named Mr. Graves and Mr. Tannen arrived to show him a path towards salvation. They offered to help him pay off his debts, and all they needed in return was exclusive access to the casino's basement. Jacob took the deal, and was perfectly fine to live in ignorance of the goings-on in the basement, at least at first. But as he began to notice several of his regulars heading down there, never to return, his curiosity got the better of him. He went to sneak a peek and saw a horrible sight. Down below was a withered corpse, containing a being known as the Hunger and Darkness, an ancient creature from Malifaux's past that had survived the millennia by going from host to host, feeding on souls to sustain itself. Jacob wisely tried to renege on his deal and flee, but was quickly captured by the same two men who had initially offered him salvation. Two men who revealed themselves to be anything but human. Mr. Graves was a skinwalker who had turned his back on his never-born kin, and as for Mr. Tannen, he was a woe who had split from Pandora after her mental state had started to degrade. Both were willingly serving the hungering darkness, for reasons I couldn't even begin to understand. Jacob was brought before the creature, and as the entity was getting ready to consume him body and soul, something happened that it didn't expect. Resistance. Unlike all of its other victims, Jacob was able to resist its power, which meant that Jacob was potentially something he had been looking for a long time, a permanent host. The creature offered Jacob a deal: become its new host, or die. Jacob, of course, chose the first option. Now, Jacob isn't necessarily a good man, but he isn't a monster, and being host to a creature of such evil didn't really sit well with him, especially when he saw what it was doing to the people of his casino, turning his escorts into beckoners to lure more victims inside. Those victims becoming illuminated by the hungering darkness's essence, fermenting in its corrupt power, until finally, when their soul is nice and ripe, they are compelled to head downstairs and be consumed, leaving behind a soulless, depleted husk, to be dumped into the sewers, or used as cannon fodder in a scrap. Actually, not all of those victims were consumed. There was one, a Kitty Dumont, whose body was taken, but her soul remained intact, becoming a sort of ghost who apparently was quite satisfied with her new state of being, even struck a deal with the hungering darkness to be its agent, and generally spends her time gleefully haunting the casino. As I was saying though, Jacob is a bit horrified by the evils going on around him, and the only somewhat decent person he can talk to about it is Gwyneth Maddox, a luck thief who had previously stolen little bits of luck here and there before she was caught and told to work for the casino, or die. Although forced to manipulate luck in the casino's favor, she at least doesn't try to bankrupt people, and Jacob can appreciate someone with at least a little sliver of morality. Recently, the Honeypot has seen a lot of success, and it's been expanding, buying surrounding taverns, and selling alcohol tainted with the hungering darkness's essence, creating more victims to feed on, and all Jacob Lynch can do for now is simply watch as the monster inside of him grows in power with each new soul it consumes.
Hi guys, and welcome back to our Malifaux Masters breakdown, where we showcase the factions and personalities vying for soulstones and dominance within the Broken City. Today's episode follows the denizens of the notorious Honeypot establishment and their brilliance-dealing leader, Jacob Lynch of the Ten Thunders. The Honeypot keyword primarily focuses on attrition gameplay and enemy denial, reducing the effectiveness of their actions while also adding to their own. This is primarily achieved through the use of brilliance tokens, which are not treated as a condition, but can trigger a variety of the keyword's abilities. Brilliance is mainly handed out through the crew's The Light Inside trigger, which adds tokens equal to the number of masks in their final duel totals. Additionally, higher ranked members of the Honeypot feature the Rig the Deck trait, which allows them to swap cards between their control hand and the top of the Fate deck at the start of their activation, allowing them to better plan their order of actions. Speaking of planning, the Honeypot also features a variety of traits that punish opponents for cheating from their control hand, granting them leverage in opposed duels. Leading the Honeypot crew forward is their owner Jacob Lynch, an excellent toolbox master who can flex between dealing heavy damage and brilliance tokens in equal measure. Lynch's signature move is the Succumb to Darkness attack action, which can deal up to 5 damage in parallel with their brilliance tokens, with the added bonus of incidental summoning if it achieves a kill with its stat 6. The best way to stack brilliance comes in the form of the This Round's on Me bonus action, which can pulse the condition out within 6 inches with an additional handy heal built in for allies. Finally, Lynch has some excellent tricks to defend his average stats. None for Me prevents him from getting stunned, while Don't Bite the Hand works very well with Welcome to the Honeypot in restricting the effectiveness of opposing actions. Add to that the fact that Hold'em gives enemy models within 6 inches a point of damage every time they resolve an action or ability that cheated Fate, you can add a hell of a lot of chip damage to the turn. Accompanying Lynch into battle is the appropriately feared Hungering Darkness, a terrifying 11 incorporeal 8 wound totem that can discard a brilliance from enemies to gain a positive flip to attacks thanks to its devouring need. Huggy, as he's known, is a brutal damage dealer thanks to his stat 6 attacks and the ability to stone for triggers thanks to his henchman status. With the Light Inside built into both attacks, the beast can then end its activation with the excellent Consume Brilliance bonus action to dish out slow while also healing itself back up until Lynch brings it over to his next victim with his Derringer. In terms of traditional henchmen, the Honeypot boasts 2 very different options in Gwyneth Maddox and Kitty Dumont, the former of which offering significant disruption and board control. Gwyneth's Luck Thief ability allows her to flip the effectiveness of positive modifiers, while her Come Play at My Table tactical action can drag in enemies towards her within 6 inches. From here, the Party Never Ends trait will punish those within range with a brilliance token every time they cheat Fate, setting up her allies for later turns. For an equal 9 soulstones, you might instead consider the incorporeal Kitty, who can offer her own form of enemy manipulation through her Reaching Tendril 6-inch push and Drawn to Brilliance bonus action. The On Your Heels trigger of the former can also lead into effective damage thanks to the Draw Essence tactical action, which can cause a TN12 defensive duel which when failed will cause 2 damage to all models within 3 inches. Kitty's at her best when hassling opponents and scheming down the wings, where her move 6 serves her very well as she passes through terrain with her ghostly presence. Moving over to Enforcers, and never was there a more appropriate figure of that title than Mr. Graves, the Honeypot's resident bouncer who can grant cover to allies within 2 inches thanks to his bodyguard ability. Graves' 8 wounds are supported with his Black Blood and Hard to Kill traits, while Ruthless allow his stat 6 melee attack to inflict heavy damage on anyone unlucky enough to be within his 2-inch range. Finally, the Keeping the Peace bonus action can go some way in reducing the effectiveness of other beaters, forcing a TN13 willpower duel to halt any charging assailants coming in. Alternatively, at 6 soulstones, the highly frustrating Mr. Tannen can be brought to battle, where he can pick apart enemies from the backfield. Tannen's Betrayal ability and Boring Conversation bonus action are excellent sources of enemy card drain, while Manipulative and Despicable Promises should keep his measly defensive stats safe from those who break through the lines. Finally, the Delirium trait acts as a mock misery aura that can move or damage models who gain Brilliance tokens. Over to the Honeypot's minions, and the Distorted Illuminated offer some serious tank power at 7 soulstones. With 7 wounds, regeneration and a healing bonus action, the Illuminated can certainly punch above their weight with the enemy's greatest beaters. From there, the Tear Apart attack action is essentially 3-4-6 on its damage track, thanks to the Sharp and Brilliance trigger, while their scintillating crowd is a rare source of shockwave damage along with more brilliance. Expect to see these guys front and centre of the fight. Alternatively, if it's something more precise that you're after, then consider the 5 Soulstone Beckoners, who are excellent control pieces thanks to their stat 6 lure and pleasant distraction anti-interact aura. In scheme-heavy pools, these models can dominate the early game, supported by their Succumbed and Remember Last Night abilities to stack up brilliance where needed. Finally, for a cheap 3 Soulstones, there are the Depleted, insignificant minions that possess a hefty 5 wounds with both hard to wound and kill. These unfortunate souls are purely designed to stodge up valuable targets, who will struggle to get away freely thanks to its constriction and demise abilities. The Honeypot keyword are at their best when tying up opposing forces under a heavy weight of oppressive auras and brilliance to restrict their movement and output until one of the heavy hitters arrives to finish the job. Strat and scheme pools that encourage a centralised area of conflict are areas where Lynch's crew can excel, as are those that naturally force the opposing crew into your lines and board half. Once this has happened, you can then layer in effects and brilliance to ensure that every action and cheat forces the opponent to reconsider their decisions. The crew excels at ensuring their abilities go off thanks to Rig the Deck, which can allow informed decisions for their actions. Burst damage from the Hungering Darkness, Illuminated, and Lynch's Succumb attack action can swiftly eliminate even the tankiest of enemies, meaning that the Honeypot can play with activation order control in the latter half of games, whittling down enemies to kill them at the start of a turn. Don't worry though, because if you yourself feel like you're being consumed by brilliance, then fear not, there are measures that you can take to see clearly once again. Firstly, offensive and defensive flip modifiers such as manipulative can disrupt the effects of Rig the Deck and your cheating restrictions. Ranged crews can outspace the Honeypot, especially those that can deal damage and shockwaves with their pulses, which can take advantage of the close-knit nature of Lynch's auras. Finally, Burial can go some way to reducing the impact of the Honeypot's board control, as can models who can leap and place away from their tormentors to run schemes down the wings. Finally, if you'd like to dish out some brilliance yourself, then consider the following starter list, which takes advantage of Stat the Deck and anti-cheat auras to make a strong bubble from which the Hungering Darkness and Illuminated can strike. Use the Beckoner and Lynch to pin down enemies while Kitty scores and schemes where needed. Once you've grown in confidence, then consider experimenting with versatile options such as the scheme running Dawn Serpent or the ranged Beta for Hatsu. So that brings us to the end of this Malifaux Masters breakdown. We hope it's been useful in giving you a snapshot of the crew and its mechanics. Additionally, a massive thank you to the wonderful stylings of Arvandus who you heard in the introduction. You can find more information about his channel down in the description below. For more talk about Malifaux and its masters, why not check out our podcast, The Harlefaux Show, where we break down each keyword and why you should play it. Alternatively, we have a wealth of beginner-friendly battle reports here on the channel that guide players through every flip and decision. Whichever you choose, we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, folks. Hi guys, thank you very much for watching our content. It means the world to us. If you'd like to see some more videos, they should be over here. And if you'd like to support our channel, keep these lights on. You can find links to our Patreon and merchandise in the description below. See you later.